All right, so I just got done washing off the Xterra here, getting all the salt and stuff off. Looks a lot better than what it did before. And anyway, I just did some stuff under the hood here, just kind of checking stuff over, and I noticed that the positive terminal here on the battery is pretty gunked up with corrosion there. So I'm gonna pop this thing out and I'll show you how I'm gonna clean it up here. And I don't have any of the proper professional tools or anything like that at home, so it's gonna be just what I have laying around to kind of do this job. So all right, let's get it set up here and we'll get started. All right, so we get started here. You can see I got these nuts here on the hold down J bolts loose. Did that with just a this is just a 10mm gear wrench. Oops, there it is, like that. So all I'm going to do is take those off. And I've noticed too over the summer that this battery had like some, looks like battery acid on the top. I'm assuming it probably cooked a little bit with the heat. It's usually what kills batteries is the heat, not so much the cold. Sounds like that J bracket now is somewhere down below. I don't know, we lost one here, but this one is still here, but the one over here, I don't know where that is. It's gone. It just fell down. It doesn't sound like it hit the floor either. So then at that point, I'm gonna loosen up the negative here. It's also a 10mm. For battery safety type stuff, it's probably a good idea to be wearing gloves, because these things do and sometimes are known to explode. Batteries are filled with acid, and this is what they call like a wet cell. So you want to make sure that you're careful with that. At work too, we wear gloves, safety glasses, and then also like a face shield when we do anything with batteries, whether it's changing them out or jump starting a vehicle. That's like safety protocol, just because. Then we're going to jump over to the positive side. Same type of thing. It's 10mm. You can see this thing is really green. So this is basically the same thing we do at work too. If batteries look like this, we'll take them out and clean them up, or sometimes just clean them up in the truck. We have like the professional spray stuff that we use that neutralizes it, and I think it goes on, does it go on yellow? It either goes on red and turns yellow, or it goes on yellow and turns red if acid is present. So most of the time it turns anywhere around where these are, these vents on top here. You'll see like this will all turn red. Like I'd imagine this would turn red. So I don't think we need to take that bolt out. I'm pretty sure we can probably just loosen this up back and forth. Yeah. So we're just gonna kind of wiggle that. Oops, and take the cover off. So I got some wicked fuses in there too. So, oh, look at all that nice green goodness. That's some good stuff. Right, so the next step here, I'm gonna do without you because I don't have a decent place to set the camera. Pull the battery up and I'll set it up on the floor, and then I'll show you how I'm gonna clean it up here. Alright, so I got it out. I actually pulled it with the little heat shield here, plastic shield. I just pulled it out with it, it was just easier. And then just slide that off. There's nothing to that. Kind of just look it over. I'm going to spray a little bit of water on top here just to kind of get us started. And then I'm going to just take, this is just baking soda here that I'm using. I'm just going to take that and kind of sprinkle it, and that should neutralize any acid. And like I said, that's all I have. I don't have the stuff I use at work. Stuff at work is probably a little bit better than what this is, but we're doing this on a budget and we're doing this on a whim, and that's what I have. I think that's what people used in the past, so I'm just going to kind of let that sit for a little bit, and then we'll come back and clean it up. Alright, so I have let that sit for a while, and now I got a old toothbrush here, or maybe it's a new toothbrush, maybe it's a toothbrush I'll still use. But you can kind of see there's some gunk here that's brown. It's kind of reacting with this baking soda a little bit. I'm just going to kind of scrub this stuff in. I probably got a little bit more than what I need on here for baking soda, but I don't want the acid either from the battery, what's left, etching my concrete floor. And then you'll probably see too, I also took out the plastic battery tray, which is nice that it's plastic and it's got this lip. So if the acid does come out of the battery, it doesn't affect the metal and start rusting that. And then also the battery tie down, doing that. So I'm just gonna polish this thing up real quick. There's no need to watch that, and then we'll be back here in a second. Alright, so got it all dried off here, cleaned it off with some water. Just going to use some used 220 sandpaper here. I don't have one of those battery cleaner things. I'm just going to kind of polish up this terminal a little bit. There's battery post. So the ground post here, negative, that one looks pretty good. Positive one though definitely has some corrosion going on here, so I just want to try to get some of that off of there. So, and then probably what I'll do after I got this all cleaned off again, hose it down one more time to make sure we got any of that stuff off, dry it off real good, and then we'll be back to installing it here. Alright, so we got it all cleaned up. That looks a lot better. And we're going to work on getting this thing back installed. I'm going to clean up the positive connector on the truck first. And then we're going to put some dielectric grease on the terminals here on the post, because that's what I have. So let's get to it. Okay, so instead of cleaning it in the truck, you actually can remove it. And this nut here is a 12 millimeter. You just take that off and it'll drop right off of the wire and those two fuses or whatever that's in there, circuit breakers. You can see this thing's pretty green, looks pretty bad. So same type of thing. I'm going to wash it up here with some water, baking soda, and then I'll hit it with that used sandpaper here to get it cleaned, and then I'll show you putting it back together. Alright, so I got it all cleaned up here. I'm actually pretty proud of myself. This turned out pretty well with very cheap used 220 sandpaper. So wherever there's going to get the contact spot, like I said, the ground over here, this one doesn't look bad at all, or the negative post. This one looks pretty good. I mean, and I guess I could run the sandpaper in there once. Oh, and this actually came apart a little bit further. If you back this bolt all the way off, the little plastic part on the bottom here, or on the top, that actually came off, so you can get in there and clean all the spots. So I'll get it reassembled here, show you what it looks like, and then I'll put some of this on. This is what I'm using. This is my dielectric tune-up grease. It's just what I have. It's either that or regular grease out of the grease gun, so I'll use this instead, since I don't have like the battery post type stuff. Alright, so I got it back installed here. It's really not much of a trick, to give you plenty of room, unlike some other cars where they got your batteries buried. But this is a old design with not a lot of amenities on it, so it's nice to work on something like this. Like I said, I just used dielectric on the posts, put some on our terminals there as well. This one here I did the same thing. I think we're to a point where we can probably slide that on. I can slide this one on. A little bit of arcing. There you go. So we got those two on. The only thing that's left is this cover here that fell off when I was taking it off. That's not too much of a deal. So again, it's 10 millimeter to get this tight. This nut right here, that's a 12 millimeter, and that removes this connector from this part here. That I didn't show you that when I took that apart. And then when you put it in, just make sure you got your hole down the same way, the way you took it off. And this should be pretty much that. Let me get everything tightened up here and I'll show you the last step that I do. Alright, so I'm actually reshooting this. I went back to try to go through and put all these different segments together into a YouTube clip here, and I realized that at some point, I don't know if the microphone batteries went bad or what, but I had some pretty bad crackling. So earlier in this video you'll hear some crackling where you can't hear what I'm talking about. Hopefully now that's fixed. I switched the batteries out. So basically here I'm just going to say what I did in this last one. So what I do is I put on a 1.5 trickle charge. So the yellow light means it's charging, red just means you have power to the charger, and then it'll go green once it's charged. So I do that as kind of a last step, but anyway, you can just kind of look through what I did here, tighten everything up, got the battery hold down bracket on, and then I just put on those two battery clamps there with the 1.5 charger just to get it charged back up again. So I know at work we go through a lot of batteries just because the batteries or the accessories are usually left on with the vehicle off. So the battery gets a lot of drawdowns, and they're not deep cycle batteries, they're just regular wet cells. But for the cost of what they get the wet cells for, they might as well just replace them. So we usually get about, I want to say about 3 years or so. Usually by that point you run out and you end up doing a jump start, and usually about a jump start then you know it's time to start changing batteries. So alright, so that's my Nissan Xterra battery maintenance type project. We'll see how many years we get out of this one. This is a 2015 Nissan, so it's about going on 3 years on that battery or so. So there we go, that is going to be our completed project.